All right, let's roll. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the inaugural episode of Sound Studio Breakdowns, baby. This is a channel I've been wanting to start for a long time. My name is Ed. My artist name is ed.enai, and this is Sound Studio. I want somebody to have different channels to access different aspects of my character. I'm an artist. I'm a huge fan of the mixing process, producing, recording, the whole shebang. And though, yes, this is a bedroom studio, that does not by any means dictate how much time, effort, energy, passion, love that I have spent and put into art. And I would really just love to finally share that with the world. Yo, this is Editing Ed, and I just want to say I took a little leap here. This video is like an hour and a half long, so there's going to be a breakdown, there's going to be a history about me, there's going to be all these things that you may have not signed up for, so I just want to let you know that there's chapters and timestamps, and if you want to get to the actual breakdown of the song, it starts about 15 minutes in, so yeah, get in there, and if not, if you want to stick around for the whole ride, just keep watching, it's that simple. Alright, I spent so much of my life watching videos on YouTube and just like gleaning information and really hogging it and just feeling like coming from a place of lack as opposed to a place of abundance. And this channel is going to be all about being honest, direct, open with people. You're going to see things that are going to be faux pas. This is as much a retrospective as it is a diary of work that I've deemed successful enough to release to the public. And what you will hopefully learn from all this is how much craft and love, artistry goes into a piece of moving art with rhythm and melody. That's how I view music anyway. It's just like a snapshot of time. It's moving through space, and we can decorate it however way we like. And I'd like to finally just share with you my process and sometimes my lack of process. I've gotten a lot better over the years, but just to give you a little bit of a history on me and how I've been working. I've had Ableton since it was live as a DAW. Obviously, I think if you're here, you know this. But for those who don't, it's a digital audio workstation. That's a DAW. And Live is one of the programs that is very successful right now. It's fantastic for the creative process in general in music. And I love using it for sound design, mixing, mastering. It could do everything. And I've actually been using Ableton since pirated copy, sorry guys, but since I was like 19 years old, probably, maybe. I had Ableton 7 or 6 or something like that. And it was just always daunting to me. Just here, we'll switch views. As you can see, this is what Ableton looks like. That's not a brand new page, but still, the fact that it's a little sterile, right? The colors are gray and yellow, different shades of gray. And it's iconic now, but in the beginning, it never really spoke to me as, oh, I get it. There were so many menus and settings on the left here and on top. Anyway, I felt really like confused. And that lasted for years and years of my life, okay? I didn't actually start to understand what the hell I was doing with this thing. I was basically using it as a glorified infinite track tape recorder. And I was just recording my ideas in this arrangement view right here. And just not even using metronomes and just wondering why I couldn't finish any projects. Like, what's wrong with me that I can't make sense of this entire mess that I just made? And it makes sense now because I get it. You need to have order and structure. This is where machines shine. The creative process for me has always been, this is the way I feel, and passion and emotion and splashes of color, Jackson Pollock it up. But at the same time, computers are really fantastic at helping you organize things. And all it takes is you to want to do that. And I was in a place in my life where I was not ready to do that. I was thinking that artists have to be wild and passionate. And I was looking up to those people. And I was researching Jimmy Page in his most rambunctious years when he was like doing heroin on stage and shit. And I thought that was like the epitome of what it meant to be an artist. And yeah, really, I don't know where it started or happened, but I was romanticizing this struggling artist filled with pain and some sort of substance abuse usually, and thinking that is the highest level to achieve and to be like. And thankfully, I realize now that I just grew up, and I am happy to have grown up so much because that was a life that I was mimicking, and I allowed addiction and terrible habits to enter my life, and that's how I lived it. And I chose to go down that path for a long time. And naturally, though, I realized that, first of all, as we explore and as we experiment with drugs and mind-altering substances, our brains get bored with the inputs that we're putting in, and that initial dopamine rush. I don't know, whoever has had like their first cigarette ever, or the first time you did your favorite drug, or a sip of alcohol, whatever it was. If you're a teetotaler, all the power to you. But like that first time you did something, You'll always be chasing that incredible high, right? It's never going to be that good, especially when you cheat, so to speak. And I consider anything that you do, that you put into your body and that it gives you immediate gratification, I think that's a cheat, right? And again, I'm not trying to preach, but this is just what I've learned for myself. And hopefully there's even one person out there who may be feeling this way right now, and that would have made this entire diatribe worth it. Once I realized that the drugs weren't serving me and I was never going to get that high again off of them, I realized that music is the thing that has always been present, and even through my wildest drug escapades, I've always come back and wanted to incorporate music in some way in all of that. And really, I think I was just striving to express myself, and I was failing to, because the drugs were just literally derailing and preventing me from doing so. Whether it's by depleting my dopamine and making me feel absolutely miserable, the muses would stop coming to visit me basically in those states. And then that would be a cycle of overeating and sexual gratification, chasing frivolous expeditions with women. Thank God that phase of my life, knock on wood, is over, because I realize now that the thing that brings me the most joy is the art of creation. And Ableton Live is an incredible tool to express oneself through the medium of music. What's up, baby? What's up, baby? It's your boy, Editing Ed. I'm here for the future. And let me just tell you, this edit took so long. So I just want to say thank you so much for sticking around. And if you do appreciate this kind of content, give me a like, give me a follow, write a comment, tell me how much you love me, you hate me, whatever it is. It would help the channel out a lot. It would help me out a lot. I would really appreciate it. So thank you for sticking through. And let's get it going. Let's keep it going. All right, I'll see you later. I'll just see you again right now. All right, peace. And I just really want to start sharing with y'all. This channel, we're going to be exploring everything from songwriting, we're going to explore producing, we're going to explore mixing, and at the very last step, of course, mastering. That is what I would consider. Songwriting is actually the initial thing, then there's the recording process, then there's the production process where you could literally change a song entirely in this production phase. And then in mixing, that's the art of making all of the elements sound the best that they can possibly be in relation to each other, that all serves the purpose of the song. And then mastering, of course, is getting everything leveled to compete, for lack of a better word, with other releases in the genre that you're making it, and preserving dynamic range, or sometimes squashing it and removing some of that just to be louder, as it were. So I'm going to be sipping some coffee. Shout out to Stone Street Coffee, a local Brooklyn factory. Big shout out to King Killer Studios. That was the first space in New York that I was a part of that felt like a community for musicians, and I had a really wonderful time renting there. Shout out to Dave. He really runs an excellent studio, and I still appreciate everyone who I've met through that place. Where were we? That's right, Stone Street Coffee. I still remember entering the building and just, first of all, passing. It's on 2nd Avenue and 9th Street in Gowanus in Brooklyn, and just passing by and smelling the most incredible coffee. I wasn't even like a big fan of coffee until I smelled it from Stone Street. So they're not plugging this. I just want to tell you, if you're looking for the best coffee and you got a coffee drinker in your life, just give them a little taste, give them a little treat. They do 3-pound bags for a total, I think, of shipped is like $45. It's a great gift to give somebody who loves coffee. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about the entire process. We're going to explore entire songs. So if you're a fan of my currently dormant project, Komanda, so shout out to Phil. He's my partner in Komanda, and he's somebody who was very skilled in Ableton, and I was coming off of this period of my life where I had a band in my 20s, in my early 20s, and we played some shows, and it was feeling good, and then life happened, and my musical partner at that time, Ryan, had to move away with his wife. They were having a newborn. They didn't want to raise a kid in the city. And the bass player, Herman, also moved to Texas. And then there was some drama with the drummer. And there was some trauma that I experienced, and some inability to trust people developed after that. And I really just stayed away from music for 5 years. In my 20s, there was this really dark void where I was just unable to connect and to feel like I could even make progress in music. And it was a really dark time. That's when I started using more and more drugs, and I basically got to the end road of that lifestyle as a bartender in New York City. I'm sure you could imagine how easy it is to fall off the wagon as a bartender. But luckily, I got my act together. I left that world. I left the bartending business, and I started working a job as an audio specialist, basically recording on film sets, on shoots, and doing some production. So I got the lay of the land there, got a little bit of video production knowledge, experience, and I have started doing post-production sound work as well. So I was at this point where I was so unsure of my skills after being away from music for 5 years. Even though I would still listen to music and still fantasize of pursuing my dreams, there was this huge disconnect between what I wanted to be and what I was actually doing and able to do in music. I would literally just come home and ignore my instruments, and it was really sad and taxing time for my spirit. But luckily, I was able to come out of that, and as I was bringing myself out of this darkness, shout out to Sanya, happened upon Phil, and Sanya introduced us, brought us together at a party. And it felt really good to just connect with someone on music. And all we were doing was just yelling at each other's ears. It was really loud. There was a lot of music playing. But we were just yelling, oh, you like Eiffel 65? It's a banger. I'm joking. I forgot exactly. Linkin Park, we connected over, darker things like Metallica. And he loved Scorpions. And basically, we both wanted to bring a sound to existence. We were going to start a trio, but then it turned out Sanya was more interested in doing cover songs. And it ended up being more so Phil and I. And we wanted to do originals and put our own voice out there. And so we started. And Komanda was born. That was in the end of 2019. We released this song that we're about to explore. This is the first song that we ever wrote. And this is called Mirror Friend. So let's dive into this. I want to explain just a couple of broad strokes. I have to 100% give a big shout out to Ilangelo. If you're ever watching this, I can't thank you enough. I'm sure there are so many other music producers out in the world who have watched your Mixing with the Masters class, on your work on After Hours with Weekend. And holy crap, when we go through the process of learning something, it's not like this. Like that's not the road to success, and that's not the road to how I personally learn. And I've done a lot of listening to podcasts. That's not how people tend to learn. We hit plateaus, and sometimes maybe there's a bit of a regression somewhere. Maybe we explore a different path that takes us further away from our goal initially, but then it'll come back and fill in the blanks for us at a later date. But what happened with me with Ableton, I was just so confused. It seemed like things were sounding good to me, but then when I would play it on other devices, Bluetooth speakers, cell phones, and it just wasn't translating. And watching and rewatching Ilangelo's course there really opened up some things for me. So I just want to shout out to Ilangelo. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for giving to the world. And this is what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. We are here to share with the world our gifts and our knowledge, and that's how we elevate the entire human race like this, okay? And everyone gets better, everyone gets stronger. Look what's happening with AI right now. These tools are coming out. The box is out of Pandora's ass, or whatever the saying is. There's just no way that we're gonna unravel that turkey, okay? It's already here. And whatever happens with the lawsuits with Stability AI and the artists, as myself, an artist who will likely have these skills in a lot of ways become redundant in the near future. Make no mistake, it's not sticking with just the art world, with the visual artist world. It's coming for music, it's coming for film, it's coming for animation, it's all these things, and obviously it's going to come for every job, almost every field ever, like any kind of data entry work, menial tasks. It's coming for everyone, in my opinion. So we need to come together and just teach each other how to be better in everything that we learn, and not be gatekeepers. And I fell into this trap of being a gatekeeper. I thought, just hog all this info, and that's just not the way to be. What, you're gonna release a song that's gonna have this crazy sound, and before everyone else, they're gonna be like, who's that guy? They're like, this is a silly ass fantasy. It was an unspoken fantasy that I think I had in my life, and now I'm just looking back and I'm like, this is hilarious. It's all about sharing. It's all about putting good energy out into the world and not trying to hog things for yourself. Abundance is here. It's available for everyone, and let's get to it. So, first things first, I want to shout out a big thing that I learned from Andrew Wong. It's just a genius move. You know how in Ableton sometimes we need to loop a section, like we're working on a section here, like we have, here is lesson number 1. Here I have intros and drops and verse 1 and riff, V2. I have it all already laid out for me. So whenever I'm working on the song in an analytical stage, I do not have to think about, where was that hook? I can go exactly to the moment that it starts, because I just simply added these little delineations here. Right click, add locator, and boom, that's where, anytime I want to play from there, I just click that, and I'll press play, and we're right there. So, besides adding locators for your entire song, the one thing I would just recommend, when you first start out, you're obviously your session's not going to look like this, but just create a one track that says length and have that be as part of your default template. Let me tell you, just have a length track and make it a MIDI track, right? So Control-Shift-T or Control-Command on a Mac, and we create a new MIDI track, and then I'll hit the record track. There's several ways to do this. I'll just hit record for a second. All right, that's it. I created a MIDI track, and I'm going to just extend it. And I'm going to, even from the very beginning, I'm going to extend it to, I don't know, 5 minutes, right? Is the song going to be more than 5 minutes? Maybe. Maybe we're going to make the next Echoes by Pink Floyd, and it's going to be incredible. But it's going to be for the modern times with the short attention spans that can definitely sit through a 23-minute piece of music. So the purpose of this, and we're going to rename this Length. And I liked it, like, these are the lessons, and they're coming in. Okay? I'm going to make individual videos of this, but for people who stick along here, for me, it takes many times for a message to come through for me to actually like absorb it like the sponge that my not so smooth brain is. So what I like to do is call it Length, all caps. Shout out to, again, Andrew Wong, one of the best creators in the music game. I'm going to color it white, and I'm going to right click. I'm going to assign track color to clips. So if you ever look at your, oh goddamn, I colored my track right here, but then the clip color hasn't changed, then it looks bad, right? So yeah, just assign track colors to clips, and it makes everything uniform and nice and pretty for you. The reason that I do white, and this is part of the recommendation here, use colors that make sense to you, okay? It's not about me telling you what it should be. I'm a visual learner, right? And for me, certain colors mean things for me, and I'm sure that's going to be the same for you. Like, for me, a deep blue represents bass in my imagination. So anything that has to do with bass, I automatically know that it's going to be this dark blue. So right down right here in my return track, I have a return track that says F Quiznos. Yeah, it's Quiznos submarine, so I have a Wave submarine plugin there. So yeah, just do the same thing for yourself. Why do I use white? White is just a blank template for me. It's like the absence of color. Technically that would be black, but I just use white, right? That's my system. And then you just make it roughly the length of your track. So whenever you need to work on a section and loop a section. So let's say I'm Control L, Command L on a MacBook, and I'm gonna loop on this section, and I need to. I saw your face again. Right, so we're looping that section. Now I need to bounce this. I stopped working on it, and now what do I have to do? I'm going to manually go here and extend these with my mouse and try to get it to the exact point of where the end was. No, all you got to do is click on your length track that you created, because you're awesome. You hit Control L, Command L, and your exports are going to be the exact same size, and you never have to worry about manually adjusting that for exporting ever again. Just a brilliant little tip. Take that into your noggin and bookmark that baby. Okay. All right, so I'm going to close that. So at the very top, I have the length track. There are other times and other songs where I will also have a submix, and that's the beauty of Ableton. It's so logical to see this. I think it works so much better than something like Pro Tools, which is another program that I use, but that's more for post-production film work. Ableton, get your game up for composition. Get better video encoder support, because it works fantastic on a MacBook, doesn't work well on Windows. And please, let's create like a SYNTH code, time code abilities. Like, Pro Tools is not that good. I'm sorry. Pro Tools give me so much shit, and I can't even run Pro Tools 2018 on the M1 MacBook unless I pay him $600, and I don't want to do that right now. Just Pro Tools Avid, you're losing your crown. It's over for you, baby, and I cannot wait until another DAW is just going to realize that this is a huge gaping hole here. Let's capitalize on that, because for sound design, nothing beats Ableton for creativity. It's just absolute workhorse. So now that we have this, we have group here, right? So we have a big instrumental group. And I also have a dry lick group, and like I probably was doing this towards the end of the mixing session, and the lick is referring to a guitar section, and I wanted it to be, as it says, dry, right, without effects. So I wanted it to be more punchy in the mix. So there's going to be a lot of things that I'm going to explore here that I don't think are the right ways to do it, and they're going to be faux pas. And if you catch me on something, I don't even mention it, write it in the comments, okay? Tell me how much of an asshole I am, why I missed this thing. It's okay. We're all humans here. I'm not pretending like I am the master of all masters. I've spent just a lot of time trying to learn this and trying to get better, and this is my passion. So let's go. Shit on me all you want. Let's bring on the discussion, okay? Let's do this thing. I have a dry lick group as well, and then I have an acapella. Why is it red? For me, acapella means the vocals of the track. The vocals of the track in the music that I make anyway, they are the heartbeat, they're the passion, and yeah, that's why it's red. Pretty simple. It's the blood, baby. And so let's open this up. Label your tracks. Label. Listen, are you listening to me, Tom? You gotta label your tracks, okay? I know that you get into the habit of just going, new track, it's a new track, and I'll get to it later. Maybe you will, but it's just gonna help you with your organization, with your mind map of what your song is. Color code, label your tracks. It's just that simple. Get into the habit as you're starting out. It's gonna make all of your projects so much better. And we're back. And it feels really good because I just checked and the recording sounded perfect. And last night I tried recording this. The sound was all garbled up, and I'm using 2 computers to record and stream at the same time. So there are a couple little hiccups to get over, but holy crap, it is working and we are good to friggin' go. Listen, if you want me to eventually make videos about my setup and how I'm switching all this stuff, I'm streaming this right now. I'm trying to make my life a lot easier in the editing process. So yeah, sidechain hi-hat, it's a track that is completely offline. Now we're gonna see bass. As you can tell, bass is deep blue. For the drums, I have a lighter orange, and for kick and snare, which are, in my opinion, the hearts of any drum kit, they're deeper orange. Any kind of percussions also is light orange. We have guitars, as you can tell here in the background. The guitars are like this color, so I have a yellowy, and we have big chords. I am spreading out a guitar. See, these are 2 different waveforms. That's why I have them like 2 separate tracks re-recorded, the same part 2 times over. That kind of gives more fullness, right? Imperfections in a recorded signal, especially when you're compounding it. If everybody sang in perfect unison and there was a choir and it was just like really perfect and it was all auto-tuned and everything sounded really delicious, it's not going to be as full sounding if you're going to have multiple voices, and some people are a little bit sharp, a little bit flat, and there's going to be this chorusing effect that's really beautiful. So embrace the imperfections, guys, okay? This is one place where Phil and I, my bandmate in Komanda, we have this kind of split on a philosophical level. I'm a human being making music with computers, okay? I don't want anybody to forget that there's a human being behind this. And yeah, I struggle with pitch sometimes. Yeah, I struggle with timing sometimes. I've learned a lot. Just a quick aside here to explain how I was getting in my own way. As a player of an instrument, I want to hear the sound of the guitar the way that it sounds when it's mic'd up, through an amp. When I'm playing an electric guitar, that's how I want it to sound. And that's what gives me inspiration. If you play guitar and it sounds like this little twangy piece of shit that's like a DI guitar signal, so when you directly just plug it from your guitar directly into your musical interface, Focusrite, I don't care if you're using Antelope, which fuck Antelope by the way, right now in my case RME, if you're using Apollo, I don't care. That sound, it has its place, but it just doesn't have any character. It doesn't have the character that inspires me for every part that I'm going to play. So what I wanted to do was always hear my effects chain for my instrument. So what I would do is I would, right here, for let's say we're recording a guitar part, I would click this. Let me show you guys. Okay, so see right here, we have this in, we have monitoring, in, auto, and off. If I could just give you a tip. This is an unknown TikToker that I got this advice from. If you ever record with your track on auto, no matter what, there's going to be a round trip latency between what you play and what you record. And you can actually test this for yourself. Let's do that for 2 tracks right now. Let's create them. And let's do this, baby. Okay, so here we go. We're going to have 2 tracks. Okay. All right. Wow. We have a guitar here. So there, we have a guitar here. And you probably heard that right now as super dry signal. And that's actually not what I'm hearing right now myself. I'm hearing a guitar that has DSP, onboard digital signal processing, from my audio interface. And not every audio interface has this, by the way. So when I'm playing right now, I hear it with a little bit of low rolled off, because there's just a lot of bass in the guitar, and reverb. If I had to choose one effect while I'm playing music that I really want to hear, is I want to hear the reverb of a track, right? Of particularly a guitar. That really is what is inspiring to me. But if you record that reverb directly into your performance, into your DAW, you're severely limiting and muddying up your sound, because what sounds good while you're playing it is not going to sound good when you're recording the thing. Let me just give you a little bit of an example here. So let's say I wanted to record my guitar with some effects. So here you go, I'm recording this and I've armed these 2 tracks, and now I'm actually hearing, first of all, I already hear a latency between what I do, and you might hear it now too. I don't know if you could. Playing something like a rhythm part with this auto monitoring situation. I don't know if you've seen those videos of people who put on headphones and it replays whatever they're saying with a slight delay to it. Can't do it. Your brain starts freaking out, and it's just like you regress and you lose your ability to speak. Now, as a guitarist, shout out to Corey Wong with the chicken scratch. There's just no way to play that kind of part when you're hearing this delay in your own ears, right? Unfortunately, like, it's just not the way it's going to work. But not only this, the experiment that I want to show you, and we're going to just solo these tracks right here, so we're not listening to the rest of the song. But we're going to record some parts here, and we're going to see how it looks. By the way, I can't play along to that because I'm hearing 2 different signals and they're delayed, and again, my brain is gobbledygook, but I need you to see this. So we recorded these 2 tracks right here, right now, right here, right now. Boom, I could do this. That's right, I could do this. Just focus your attention. So as you can see here, in the track up top, there is monitoring set to off, and they're both coming from the same input source, and one has auto on. Now check this the fuck out, okay, ladies and gentlemen. Just look at these 2. Just look at it. It's a full, almost 16th note off. See, so I would have to drag this back down. I didn't know this, okay? I didn't know this even in my time recording and trading files back and forth with Komanda, my most recent musical project. It didn't sound as good as I wanted it to be, but I didn't realize that my interface and my methodology was failing me at the source. So when I was sending files back to Phil, I thought he was working some sort of crazy magic, but really he was just realigning. He probably thought I was a horrible guitarist, right? Because that's a huge difference if you're recording some sort of part that is like super like this, and you're just like, oh man, I can't even play guitar. He must be doing some crazy magic. So he was just aligning it by sight, but now it's just all about learning best practices. And I realized that was a huge thing that was getting in my own way, and I didn't know this for years. Ladies and gentlemen, years of my life were just completely lost to just not knowing why my ideas didn't sound as good. So, never, in my opinion, ever record parts with your automatic monitoring set to auto or in. That's it. That's the way the cookie crumbles. You're going to avoid a lot of headache. And if you do, make sure to align it. Make sure to align it afterwards. That's really the only answer that there is, okay? And obviously you have a choice. Don't do something just because I said you have to do it. Do it because you want to. And let me refill some of this incredible Stone Street coffee from my French press. Which, by the way, French press apparently, don't make a habit out of French pressing because apparently there's more carcinogens in this kind of way to drink coffee. Yo, how's my lighting, by the way? Why don't you guys let me know? Do you like this? Okay. Oh yeah, you've probably seen this light now. You're like, what the hell is this? That's, ladies and gentlemen, that's something I picked up, which is probably unnecessary right now, but it gives my silhouette a bit of a pop. Bit of a pop. Bit of a pop. You know what I'm saying? So, now that that's out of the way, don't record with your auto engaged. So when I first started making music after that dark period of my life, and I was with Phil, he's the kind of person that is overly confident about everything, even if he's not. He'll just never let on that he doesn't know something. And I'm pretty much the opposite. I'm the kind of person that if I don't know something, I'll just be like, what? Wait, why? Or how do you do this? So one day we were recording, and we didn't know this trick about the auto not monitoring within Ableton because of the round trip latency. We had opened up the preferences page of Ableton, and right over here, there's something called buffer size. So what buffer size does, as far as I know, and obviously this is not going to get super technical about this. Buffer size, the higher it is, the less load there is on your CPU. So in the mixing stage, okay, so when you're ready to mix your song or master it, you could safely go into your maximum buffer size that is allowed by your audio interface. So for me, that's 2048. I've never seen higher than 2048, but the higher it is, the less CPU usage you're going to have, but you're going to have way, way more latency, okay? Your overall latency is going to go up. So that was the moment where I realized, wait a second, Phil doesn't know everything that he's talking about, because I was sure that the higher you put your buffer size, the more latency there's going to be. So technically when you're recording, and again, no shade on Phil, he didn't know, but that's when I realized, okay, so I have more confidence now. I know something, and this was what brought me back onto the journey of being, okay, I'm going to start to really become an expert at Ableton. I'm going to go to start traveling down this path, as opposed to deferring to somebody who was clearly ahead of me at the time in terms of skill with this software. And in many ways, I'm sure is still ahead of me in a lot of ways. Shout out to Phil. Phillionaire. Okay, so again, when we're recording, we want to take this buffer size and we want to bring it down. So buffer size can be as low as something like 256 at the very highest, in my opinion, when you're recording, to deal with a decent amount of latency. Okay, so back to our tracks. We have our guitars with the yellow, and then synths for me are usually purple or hot pink. I think this is when I was still doing them purple. And next up is a group of SFX. And SFX for me is a little bit of an inside joke. It is coming from the movie set world, right? There's a special effects unit, right? Special effects in film and TV is like whenever there's an explosion or some sort of gag with goop, and like they're the people who know how to make that viscous material, or like literally jerry-rigging a bomb or something to explode safely on set. So it's actually FX, right? What I'm really talking about is like risers, fallers, Foley, things that help glue the sections of the song, help bring the listener along for the ride, as opposed to being an abrupt change, right? These are things that help patch over these moments in the songs when we switch from section to section. But yeah, that's always green for me for whatever reason. And then we have that dry lick again, which is an anomaly, and then we have the acapella, which in this track is very little actual vocal tracks. Probably the least in any song that we've ever put out, to be frank. I just found out that the scene, spoiler alert, the scene in Drive where Bryan Cranston's character gets really viciously murdered with the handshake, gets sliced, like he's going for the handshake and the guy shakes him, but it literally just cuts him. That was an ad-lib that Bryan Cranston, the actor, vocalized on the set, and that's what ended up being in the movie. So never hold yourself back. You got a good idea, float it into the world, especially when you're working on an artistic project. You're in a room full of musicians, you got something good, speak it into the world. You never know if it's going to connect and actually land in the movie. This track has the least amount of vocal takes that I've ever recorded on a song. And actually this audio here it's so crappy, it's incredible. It was recorded on a USB microphone. Shout out to the TLM 102 mic, which is a very nice, like, $700 mic that I pretty much used for everything up until recently. It's a bit darker than the TLM 103 Neumann. I highly recommend it if you're on a semi-budget for a really good microphone. Your mileage may vary. You got to find a mic that works for your vocalist. But I'm a huge fan of this SM7B, by the way. I only recently got it, and it does live up to the hype. It's such a stellar, full, and transparent sound. And obviously, if you come real here, you get the podcast voice. You get that real big bass response. But I like it just fine from over here. And yeah, this was recorded on a shitty giant capsule USB microphone, like a silver one that Phil had. Probably a $40 mic. And there's people talking in the background. And I am just like... I think the take is just perfect for the song. I tried to replicate it afterwards, and sometimes shitty is good in terms of audio quality. Sometimes it fits the song, so let's just listen to that.
I saw your face again. In the mirror, you were my friend.
You could almost hear people talking in the background of this take, at least on the quiet bits, which I have actually removed here, which is part of the process. Part of the really unglamorous mixing process is like cleaning up your samples or your vocal takes. It depends. Sometimes people want to leave in the breaths in between. Sometimes it gives us some sort of, I don't know, reminder that this is created by a human, but sometimes we want a pristine vocal where it doesn't sound like it's even the human, so we don't need the breaths. So yeah, sometimes I have to go in and just make sure to manually take out and fade out parts that I am not interested in keeping, that don't serve the song for whatever artistic purpose I'm going for at the time. All right, let's actually roll this back and let's go from the very beginning of the song, and we'll peel back element by element, and hopefully y'all can enjoy this and get something out of it. So we'll listen to individual parts. This is what starts off the song, which is just a pure guitar chords. So these were recorded 100% straight into the Philips, what was it, a Native Instruments DI unit. I think that we recorded this on a rooftop, on his rooftop. So let's see what that sounds like without any effects. See? Now that is the sound of a DI guitar. It's, in this case, it's probably my Stratocaster, my Fender 1997 made in Mexico Stratocaster, which is my first electric guitar and is my one true love. And I'll never leave that guitar. Yeah, you can just hear there's too much bass. It just doesn't really. What I do like that it's a fairly simple chord progression, but there is a change in the third chord. So it goes, I believe it's E minor, D major, and then it goes to A major the first time. Actually, no, that goes to G. And then that goes to A right there. So it's just, it gives it a little bit more flavor than usual for a track. And let's listen to that with all the, see? It almost sounds shittier in some ways because it loses so much of that body. But it has a lot of, okay. You might hear some clicking and clapping and all these kind of things. For the purpose of showing this, of doing this stream, I had to remove certain things. What I like to use sometimes when I hear clicks and pops, and I'm sure actually now if I actually go truly into this and dig really deeply, I could figure out why there are clicks and pops happening. And sometimes that's from just turning on and off plugins during quiet sections. And you could actually hear that. Sometimes it's just going to be my computer because it's struggling to deal with this. But I've been trying to recover from using too many plugins. It's going to be a lifelong process. But I love it. I love the freedom of experimenting and chiseling songs. And there's going to be people like Greasy out on TikTok. Shout out. I appreciate the old school person who's going to be like, you only need an EQ. Maybe, yes, whatever. But we all have our journey. And I'm not saying everyone should use a lot of plugins. I just like to. And that's part of my healing journey, motherfucker. Okay. So the next piece that we have here is a synth that comes in. I love this synth. I think sometimes I call it wavy synth. Sometimes it's called cloud synth. But it's just an awesome sound. Love it. Shout out to Phil. All right, so what do we have here on the plugin chain? We just have probably EQ that's not even doing anything. We have phaser. We have a reverb. Since reverb, I was going to recommend that people make sure to turn on high quality on their reverbs, especially when it's time to print your tracks, to actually export your tracks. But it turns out that I don't think there is that option anymore. Yeah, I'm not sure why, but I tend to not like stock reverb. Phil is a big fan, but yeah, for this case, we ended up using it. Here, we're going to continue. We have another bit of shaving lows off from an EQ8. Then this is the process where I started to actually incorporate lessons that I learned from Il Angelo, right? So I have an audio effect rack, and this is created just like any kind of group is created, right? We have a group for synths. You just select your tracks that you want to group together, and then you just press Control or Command G, and that creates a group. Same thing can be done with your effects. Now, what this does, it creates an audio effect rack. When you create an audio effect rack, you get chains. And what this does in practice is splits up this signal into 2 or however many chains you have, right? We could always right-click and create another chain. And yes, there we go. We have a third chain here. And this is the volume of the track right there. And that would make our signal way louder. So if we played it back right now, that doesn't sound right at all because we have this, like the gate here is what really is responsible for the majority of that sound. So the gate is something that doesn't allow a sound to go over a certain level, right? It'll cut it off. If the sound drops below the threshold, the sound disappears completely, as opposed to having this natural fall-off decay. So that's great for removing guitar noise sometimes at the very end of it, if you want to, if it's already in a full mix and you don't need to hear the guitar tail trailing off, or you want to create that guitar trailing with a lot more control in post with a reverb, you can do that. So in this case, without this gate, this is what it sounds like. Completely different, right? So here we go. Such a vibe, such a vibe. And then see, right now even, this entire other parallel chain, this right here, the supermassive, is not even playing right now. So that's something that comes in for another section of the song. And this is something I picked up from Ilangelo. Again, shout out to Ilangelo. Can't give him enough credit. Thank you, G. Thank you, Legend, for sharing your gifts with the world. It's going to come back in spades, and you're already living a dope-ass life. I know you are, because I follow you on Instagram, and it looks great. You hope you're kicking it. But again, thank you from up north. You the man. The point is, you want to treat every section of your music as a moment. I'm going to paraphrase Ilangelo. He said it beautifully, but that's exactly what it is. The song is a collection of moments, and if you just create this blanket reverb or blanket effect on the entire track and there's no progression, there's no story to be told, then I think you're severely missing out on an ability of yourself as a songwriter and a creator. That's all we're doing here. We're telling stories, and that comes in later. So if you want to check it out, when it comes on, hear that delayed. So there's a huge difference between that and this. So much more present, and the other one is so much more magical and dreamlike. Pretty cool. We keep going down this chain. We have another Pro Q, just bumping up some mids. We got a dynamic tube, which kind of replicates the tube section, the drive section of an amplifier. And you can have them be various levels of shitty or sounding great. And then we have a width plugin. And at this time, I was using a lot of Waves S1 plugins. One thing that really sucks, and you're going to see a lot of probably, is that for some reason, every time Ableton is upgraded, see how this window here is black? This really blows because, first of all, I can't resize the window. And then I would have to go into my plugin section. If you're on Windows and you've ever experienced this, please just shout out. So if I wanted to do this again, if I drag S1 again here, it's going to do the same thing, right? Boom. If I try to click and move this, it's all off by this amount right here, or whatever this black space is. It really blows. So the only way to combat this is I go up right here, right click, and I turn off auto scale plugin, and then I drag it out, and then all of a sudden it's okay. This seems to be a Windows thing. I tried to get it. I tried to reach out to Ableton. They told me something about DPI settings when I'm running the software. It didn't necessarily help for me. Yeah, for whatever reason. That's them apples, ladies and gentlemen, for me, for the time being. But again, this might be me just not following through with fixing a problem that really drives me nuts, especially when I'm working through a track like this and I'm showing you things. It's not a good habit to get into, to let things like this that irritate you slide. And I'm sure I could figure out the solution. It's just going to take a lot more effort. And that's sometimes what you got to do. Solutions take effort, ladies and gentlemen, all right? Effort is required if you want to move forward in life and make your life easier for future you. Simple. Okay, let's keep it going. So next thing, we have something here. This is a riser. That's basically something that builds momentum for a track. We hear in EDM, like white noise risers, right? We hear it all the time. Here, one easy way to create risers, which helps move a track from one section to the next, is just by creating a reverb tail. And here's the guitar. So that's a reverb tail of the guitar sound. So the way that's created, we can see these chords. This is what the chord sounds like by itself. So the way that we're gonna do it, we're gonna demo it out for you, ladies and gentlemen, right here, right on the spot. So here's one way we do it. We just take it, we Control-C, we copy it over, we copy it down. Now, beautiful Ableton hotkey to just reverse any audio file that you select, any audio clip. Hit R on that bad boy. Boom, it's reversed. Okay, that's all we needed to do right there. I deleted that little tail. We didn't need that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a reverb. You could use any kind of reverb you want. For our settings, we're just going to use Ableton stock right here. All right. Oh, in case you notice something, anytime I create a new track, and each one automatically comes preloaded with three things right there. It's a utility up front. It's a Pro Q3, because I'm going to use that on almost every single track, and there's going to be a utility at the end. Anybody guess why? Anybody? Tom? Timmy? Jasmine? Jasmine, do you know why? I'll explain why. Because you're going to see a lot of faux pas that I have done here as a mixer in Ableton. What you never want to do is create automation on your tracks. You really want to avoid this at all costs. This is a bad habit to get into. And bad habits are incredibly difficult to unlearn, as we all know. You get into a rut, you start ordering too much takeout, you start feeling a little sad in the morning, so you don't want to go work out. Next thing you know, it's 3 months later and you're 60 pounds heavier. Am I right? Doesn't that happen to everyone? I'm kidding. I know this is probably my own thing. But so check this out. This bad habit here. If I do volume automation on the track's gain, right here on the fader, track fader. That's what it is basically, because it's easier to see here. See, this is obviously the clip view, the other view in Ableton. If we go to guitars here, see whenever there is any red button, that means there's automation right over here. And there's automation on the guitar chords, the volume to go down. The reason this is bad is if I want to, in the later stage of a mix, come here and just, you know what, the guitars sound good and that dip is exactly what I wanted, but I just want all the guitars to come down just by an amount. If I try to do that right now, and I go over here, and I go, okay, I'm mixing, and I just 2 dB down, please. See, all of a sudden, we have a gray track here. What the frick is going on? Why is that gray? It's disabled, okay? It's completely disabled all of the automation that I've programmed in there. And there is no way to bring it down unless I re-enable automation right over here. And then and this is what I would do for a while, just because I didn't know any better. I would just take this and then I would drag it down like that. And that's the equivalent of solving that problem. But it doesn't look as great in terms of you working through your songs or going to see them later, because aesthetics are important too in this respect, in my opinion. So it's best just not to do that. That's why we have this utility plugin at the end of any signal chain should be a utility. And here I am, do as I say, but not as I do. Doing as I say and not doing as I'm saying myself right now. So yeah, the reason is you want to program that into your utility track on the track there. So whenever you do in the final mixing stage, just want to bring everything back and retain the relative ratios of that entire track with the automations. You do it on the utility at the end of the chain, and then you never automate it on your track fader. Again, rules are made to be broken, but this is just best practices here. And if I could go back in time and reconfigure myself to do that for all of them, I would. Okay. So the way that we did this, we're going back to our reverse reverb here. So we've reversed the track, and we are going to get the reverb out, and we're going to take something like this, and we're going to exaggerate this reverb, right? We're going to make it super wet, 100% wet. And we're going to make it, yes, baby, that's right. We're going to make it super wet. We're going to make the decay exorbitantly long, something that we would never normally do, and maybe remove some of that low end. You can always EQ this afterwards. Then we're going to right-click on our track, and we're going to freeze it. Now, what freezing a track does is it commits it to memory, to your hard disk, actually. So your CPU doesn't have to work at playing and computing what the hell is going on with this particular track. It's now actually saved and almost bounced down on your hard drive. Now, to actually completely print it entirely, we're going to flatten it. We're going to right-click, so freeze and flatten. Boom, flattening. And here we go. Now that the audio file was around this long, and now look how much longer. That is with the printed reverb. Hella long. So really what we're going to do, the only thing we do is we take the latter half of that, we press R again, and that reverses it now in the proper position. And we're going to drag it, and we're going to time it along with the transient of the note that it's coming into. So let's hear what that sounds like printed. Kind of cool. Sounds pretty cool. Now together, if we mute the previous one, the other one was much shorter. That really fits a lot more. So you can tell this one doesn't really fit. The other one was better, and we're going to just delete that. This was just for purposes. So as you can see, this was just what the track needed. Sometimes you need a really long one. Sometimes you just need to get to the point. That was the perfect move here. Shout out to Phil. Okay, what else do we have here? We have 2 different guitars playing chords, or rather 2 separate takes of a human being, one single human. Me, please. Yes, I'll take 2 orders of one human playing the same part 2 times. That's where I come in. So here's the first part. And then the other one is, you hear? I was probably using a separate pickup pattern on my guitar too, just to give that vibe of it sounding like a different guitar. I think they're both my Fender Strat, but yeah, that's the way. One other tip here for labeling things, just try to label whatever you use. Like you use a preset on a synthesizer that's hardware, write that in so you could remember how you can get back to that sound. You record something with a Stratocaster, awesome. Like on this pickup, write it into your, and this is me speaking to my future self. Future self, you got that, bro? I'm giving you free tidbits here, free tidbits for you. Yeah, clearly I didn't do this here, but that's why there's two guitar parts and they're stacked. And what I think I did was I panned one of them at a later section to have different width, but equal width on opposite sides, 31 right, 31 left. So that's the automation there. And let's hear what that sounds like right after. So we're going to hear this first, the first drop. And then on the second drop, you hear that? The reason I did that is because there's going to come a lead element there, and I wanted to clear up space. I wanted to expand the stereo field and give a stage for that lead element in the center there. Pretty cool. Okay, let's keep going. What else we have in this part? We got the wavy synth. We covered this. We got some drums coming in, and Phil with the real saucy drums. Okay, so one thing about these drums, when Phil originally produced this song, he had them like completely dry, and I think it was just too stark of a contrast, so I definitely added a bit of a reverb on these bad boys, and by bit could be a lot. Let's see, I have 2 kicks stacked. I think I didn't touch Phil's kicks for the most part. From what I know now, I think stacking kicks can be dangerous, and in terms of just like phasing issues, and phasing is when two sounds are playing, so the waveforms are actually start canceling each other out, and phasing is an issue that every single mixing engineer has to deal with, and mastering engineer as well, and producers really don't even think about that stuff, but you should think about, listen to each sample individually and let's see if there's any phasing that we can capture here. So this is one kick. So there is reverb. It's going to ascend. It's not super loud, but it's there just to like glue all the drums together so they sound like they're coming from one kit. Here's the other. Okay, let's listen together. It's okay. It doesn't sound super bad. I think I would probably EQ this a little bit differently if I had to redo the entire track right now, which I don't think I want to be doing, but just letting you know, it's a constant movement of getting better, learning new things, and incorporating it as your workflow improves and as you gain more knowledge. So let's hear what the snare's doing. I think if I were to do this again right now, I would probably put a gate on the reverb so it only lasts a certain amount and it doesn't really flow into other things. Let me see if there's any kind of, there's not right now, but if I had to completely remix this track right now, I would probably make sure that really pay attention to the tails of the reverb a lot more. Okay, let's keep going for now. We got a ride, it's got a reverb, fairly healthy on it. We got a crash is part of the faller in this case. Oh, we're in a new section now. Okay, cool. Got it. All right. And then there's hi-hats. And these, I don't think I added any. Yeah, I didn't add any. I wanted to preserve certain things for Phil here. I didn't want to add it. See, there's a pop every time we get to this section. You hear that? That's because there is... See, this is why it's good to bounce this out to MIDI. So let's say right now we're done here. We're not going to make any more changes to these hi-hats. We would bounce this out, freeze it, and then you flatten it. That's right. You make a little pancake. First we freeze, then we flatten. So now let's listen to this track. Solo it again, and let's hear it. And there is still something on this track that is giving it this. So what if we tried to fade that out here? What does that sound like? Is it on the master? Is there something on the master here? Just trying to figure out why there is this little... okay, of course, it's on the actual drum track. So because the drums are being automated off this channel, that produces a pop here. So what is an alternative that we could do here that would do the same thing without causing the pop. And here we could actually automate it on, actually, at this point we could automate it, but really, let's do it the proper way. So we would take a utility and we'd slap it at the end of our drum bus. And here with our gain section, we want it to be a drop here. Let's just double check where that is. Okay, it cuts off immediately right over here. So let's mimic that exact movement right there. Boom. And I believe it comes back on at bar 9. And then we hold Alt to delete these clips. Up to delete. There we go. Oh, look at that. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. We have got rid of the click. And that's really embarrassing. But see, but this is how real it is, okay? It's a process of, sometimes I would work on these tracks for so long and I would always be punching above my weight class in terms of like my ambition. And sometimes stupid moves like that retain. Basically, we could copy that utility here. The bass track is doing the same thing. So why don't we just do it on the bass at the end of it. Bada bing. Let's see what we got. See? Already so much better. I think there's maybe one more element, I think, that is doing that. And let's double check where it is. Not here. The guitar chords. And of course we could do the same thing for the guitar chords. Here we are. And let's listen again. That to my ears sounds fine, but hey, I could always change my mind because I do that all the time. That's part of just accepting who you are as a person. And that's me, baby. I'm somebody who changes. I change with the winds. I'm a season, okay? I'm a seasonal human. All right, everyone's like, oh, wow, you said that you believe this. Yes, I did at that time, 100%, okay? And then I changed my mind. Is that so wrong, ladies and gentlemen? Who else changes his mind? If you change your mind, write it in the comments. Let me know. Like, people just want you to be like this one thing. You said you were this. Yeah, I was 100% that person at that moment in time, and now I'm entirely different. And yes, that was only yesterday. Okay, what's up, Geminis, my fellow Geminis? I feel you, baby. I feel you, dogs. Let me just think what else it could be, because there's still, I could hear this little click. Where is that? Is it guitars? It's not the guitars. It's not the drums. Is it the bass? It's the bass. Actually, the bass is something that should probably be frozen and flattened. But before that, let's just go through what the bass has on it. So one major change that the bass for this song that I remember I had to do when I was mixing it, I didn't even realize it. So just a big tip, when we're writing a bass line, try to write it in a register, somewhere maybe around here. Some Humpty Dumpty shit right here. Humpty Dumpty, get at me, dog. Okay, I know that you're broken, but I can put you back together. The point is, if you did that same bass line, if you're in the sub frequency, sometimes you might hit a wrong note, and it's harder to discern if you hit a wrong note in your sub bass, especially when you're composing on a Mac keyboard like Phil did, which is a great way to compose on the fly, but always double check your bass lines if they actually are hitting the right notes, if you're even in key, because sometimes you might notice that you think it's cool, but really replayed, it doesn't sound anywhere near as good. So let's listen to the bass line here. I changed it to just be more harmonious with the chords. Not my favorite bass line, but it just, sometimes the bass just needs a certain, it doesn't need to be too flashy, right? You might want to go over the place, but you got to always serve the song. Every time you are creating a part, just make sure you're serving the song, whatever it needs the most. So this is a basic sine waves. You want a fat bass. There's nothing fatter than a sine wave. Shout out to Fred again, Fred Gibson. Legendary producer. There's really, you can't get any fatter than that. We got a standard clip that is making it fatter though, for sure, which is just a good clipper, and it's in soft clip mode. We've got a Dyne 1 multiband compressor from Leapwing Audio. We've got an OTT, another multiband compressor, just hitting the lows, I believe. And at the very end, we're shaping it a little bit. There was probably something I didn't like in the sound, and I just removed it around here. So let's hear. Let's just hear the bass, and let's isolate that. There's a click. So I tried to actually EQ out that click from the track. I think it's coming from the fact that the notes are not gliding over. So that is pretty much that entire section, the drop. I think we went through every single section. We have another riser into the next part of the song, and then this is where V1, the verse, begins. So let's listen to that. The bass you're going to hear gets a lot bigger. I think we have got another click here. Okay. There's actually a Max for Live device that what I noticed is in a lot of the Ableton compressor, if we use it as for sidechain, I think I never narrowed down to what is the issue here, but there is clearly something that is triggering a popping sound. I think maybe the maybe the attack is too quick or something like that, and it's causing that little click. But there, in my opinion, I think for the express process of sidechaining, there are better third-party plugins, in my opinion. But yeah, this is something that this song, in my opinion, is good enough and done. And sometimes it doesn't have to be like the utmost perfect thing. So this is really just saying goodbye to the song for me, for digging through it. Okay, the bass is super, super saturated for the verses. You can tell here, only 11% on this. We got a RC20 on this. Wow, that is odd. What am I using that for? Some crunch. That's where a lot of the distortion is coming. Always most of the time in parallel. That's what I'm doing. I'm never really 100% wet on anything. If I want to retain more of the dynamics of the original sound, I will create a parallel chain. In this case, I didn't feel like I needed to. So yeah, super fat bass. Again with the Dyne 1, probably similar settings. And at the very end, yeah, just shaving off the highs there. This is a frowned upon thing, like giving width to a bass, but really I never thought this would be a club track, so I think that's okay. If you have a very wide bass, that can lead to a lot of phasing issues, and actually you might miss a lot of that oomph when you play it in the club, or it could fuck with other frequencies in general. But yeah, this is the way that we wanted it. Not every song is meant for club playback, in my opinion. Now for that audio, for the vocal track, I was actually really happy with this. That effect that you're hearing in the back, like
your face again.
These kind of like spider webby kind of things, that was not in the original version of the song. I think
your face again. In the mirror, you were my friend.
So the way that I created it was here through a return track. It goes into delay. There's delays. There's some automation happening on the foreman, which is like the size of the throat. And there's an LFO tool that is doing some cool things. There's also some gatekeeper. There's just a bunch of things some panning. It's a very complex effect here, but it really, I think it served the song and gave it like the touch that it needed, because there's a lot of space in that vocal.
In the mirror, you were my friend.
And here you could see I have it sidechained to the actual vocal, so it gets out of the way when the vocal is playing. See the volume it's ducking out of the way just enough while I'm actually speaking, and it's coming back up in the spaces.
Your face
Again, not a very well recorded vocal, but I just feel like for this song, the feeling is there, and that's what I
saw your face again. In the mirror, you were my friend. I caught you on the slide. You were never.
I don't usually like to do this, talk too much about the meaning of lyrics. Maybe I'll go back and forth on this, but Because I find that as somebody who loves music, Pink Floyd, good lyricism, Bob Dylan, a lot of the time it's better to mishear lyrics almost entirely and have your own version that you come up with, because your brain will naturally do that. Even if you're not the kind of person that pays attention to the lyrics or even really cares, or even listens to it the first time you listen to a song, your brain will start filling in the gaps of what it heard. And that's more exciting, in my opinion, than actually having super intelligible lyrics, right? Sometimes it actually turns out, once you've learned the lyrics of a song, you like it less because they're saying that? Oh, no, man, that blows. Once the song is done and out in the world, the song is no longer the artist. It's everyone else's. So these lyrics are particularly cryptic, I think. But to me, they clearly mean something.
I saw your face again. In the mirror, you were my friend. I caught you on the slide.
Yeah, so I think it's fairly straightforward. It's someone encountering, whether it's themselves or somebody else. It doesn't really matter what exactly I was thinking, but it's just about seeing somebody you know, or you thought you knew, and catching them in doing something, and they were never, right? Like, you were never what? And that's the beauty of it. You can fill in that blank for yourself. You were never good enough. You were never there for me. You were never reaching your potential. Whatever it is, that's up to you. And lyrics are one of those things that you should have carte blanche to fill in and have the song mean whatever it means to you. A good song, in my opinion, should have 1,000 different interpretations, maybe more, like an infinite amount of interpretations. Songs can change meaning based on your context clues in life. And then we're going into the... Yep, that's my computer crapping out a little bit. That's going to happen sometimes. But yeah, I think that's like that. The song really started taking its form when that riff came to be. I actually didn't even realize it was a riff. Sometimes that's why it's great to have a producer, somebody who's working with you, because as an artist, the biggest mistake you can make, in my opinion, as a creative person, is to judge yourself as you're creating. So in the process of playing something, you're self-conscious and, oh God, this sounds like shit. All right. By doing that, by having this kind of internal monologue, you are going to slowly constrict yourself. It's, if you could think of it as a vein, and it's creating vasoconstriction, and the blood can't come out, and that blood is a metaphor for the creative process, the creative life force that you're tuning into at that moment. Yeah, that's why I actually don't like anybody in the studio that I don't know. Unless it's that kind of like a collaborative thing. I don't like people just chilling in the studio, and this is what I learned from working with Phil. Nothing against those people, but it's just that I, as an empathetic person, I start thinking, because again, it's a lot of noodling, a lot of like really bad shit comes out sometimes, and if you start thinking about how another person is feeling, because they're like, it's not like a live show. You didn't prepare and rehearse. You were connecting to God, to whatever the source is of creativity in that moment. And if you are allowing somebody, if you're starting to do the calculus of, I wonder how they feel, and I should be doing better for them because they're coming from a long day at work and they just want to relax, and I'm playing this bullshit, that's it. You've already lost. You've already lost the magic. You're losing the mojo. So in my opinion, studio time is sacred. I'm not alone in thinking that.
How important is the ambiance and the setup of the studio?
It's really important. One of the things that's most important is the feeling of, like, I'll use the word, like a protected space where you feel like you could be very vulnerable and it's okay. You know, a place where you could be naked and it's okay. So the safety of the environment. If you feel like you're going to try something and someone's going to tell you that was no good, that wouldn't feel like you want to do that again. So part of it is the head space of less people around, no audience. Literally, it's set up similar to this, where it'll be producer and the artist, one engineer, and nobody else. And if it's a band, it's just it's just this group of people, the least amount of people, not friends hanging out, not anybody watching. So there's a sense of we're there to work, we're there to really do something.
Going forward in my life, like, there will be times for collaborative studio work, 100%. But if I'm working on something particular, I'm going to be you have to have boundaries. And that's one of my boundaries. You're not in the studio to work with us. I'm sorry, but it's not about like you creating the vibe. The vibe is created through the process of connecting. And me as a person, I care too much about like how other people are feeling. I'm an empath in that way. I remember one time we were playing and then I started hearing what the two people were saying. They're like, yo, and they're like, he's just playing like as we're talking. And it was just like, it's okay. It's not their fault. And it wasn't sounding good probably in that moment, but that was the end of that studio session. Like I couldn't get out of that like negative headspace after that. And yeah, so there was just like, there's no point to invite people over in my opinion. Plus for me, even being in the room with like, when it's not me at the computer, like a lot of time in the beginning, Phil would be the one over here. And the way that he works is he just scrolls through presets like endlessly. Like we all do it. And sometimes some people rely on that less, and as I'm getting older and more mature in the music process, I don't like to do that. I want to try to visualize the sound and see it, hear it in my brain, and then try to recreate it from scratch, if anything. And yeah, the process of observing the creation of music can be super boring. If you're not the one doing it, it can be like pulling teeth. So let's not try to like bring people in and be like, yo, look how cool this is, because a lot of times it's very uncool. All right, here we go. This is the riff, and it's just the dry section. Yeah, honestly, like I was just improvising over the loop going. And this is why it's really great to have somebody who you trust. A good producer is somebody who does just that. They're listening for the magical moments in your playing. And sometimes as a guitarist, you don't really, or as a musician, you might not catch that, and you only catch it in retrospect. And if it was just me working on the song, I may have never re-listened to that part. And here it is with the actual effects chain that I have on it. That's particularly crazy. So just shaving off some lows. I have, I believe, a ping pong delay here. This is nothing too crazy. Saturn driving some frequencies more than others. Saturn, by the way, is a fantastic multi-band saturator plugin from FabFilter. Fantastic, except it is such a CPU hog, and that's actually the reason. Some of the sounds, by the way, that you hear are not going to be as fully baked as they are, because this is prior to the mastering session. I have now developed a different workflow that I don't really do all of the mastering like I did in the same session, because at the end, the way that I like to work, I don't always bounce out. I don't always commit, and I'm going to be changing that over time to actually commit to waveforms more. But sometimes I want to go back in and change something all the way at the end. But part of my way of growing out of that is to bounce out these individual stems, and then I go into a whole new mastering session. And then I will really work on a full master there to get it up to spec. So the version of the song that you're hearing right now is not going to be the final version that you're hearing on Spotify or streaming service. But shout out, if you want to go to Spotify, let's go, baby. Komanda is available. Link in the description. And by the way, obviously, all the tools, all the gear that I use and have used and highly recommend. I will only ever post links for gear that I truly recommend. And if you want to help out this channel, you want to help me become basically my own boss, which is what I really have always wanted to do, and work for the people by creating content and value. You could help me out if you're looking for these items anyway. Just use the links in the description. That would go a whole lot of ways to help me out. And I understand if you want to help in a more direct way, there's a Patreon, baby, and you can check it out also in the description. And of course, at the very least, I want to get to know people who are listening to this channel. I used to be a bartender. I'm a cool guy. Please, let's be friends. No, but just join the Discord. I want to create a community where we explore tech, film, and of course, music. And those are going to be the 4 pillars. And I would love to get like-minded people together, and then we could just kick it and play games sometimes and do whatever the frig we want, because this is the future. We're in the phase right before it's Ready Player One. So let's go. I'm ready. Player 2, hello. Put your 25 cents in, please. All right. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it kicking. It sits so nice. In my opinion, like that section right there, if you were to listen by themselves entirely, it sounds like it might be too much, but honestly, in the context of the song, I think it's a really beautiful section that works. And remember, like we said earlier, the guitar chords are now bounced out in a way. So they're all super wide. I have a whole nother replica of these tracks right there. Look, these are super dull. And let's see, are these actually the same? No, these are, so 4-tracked. These guitars are tracked 4 times. Proud of you, Ed. Good job. See how they're imperfect? And that leads to that vibe of just, hey, it's human beings playing music. It's not robots making music. We're going to have plenty of that. You want music? You want perfection? We're about to have an insane amount of like perfectly curated tracks and in the style of all these people. But guess what? AI, fuck yourself, AI. That's right. I'm still going to use you, and I hope y'all do too. Don't fall behind. But at the same time, I will always retain my humanity and remind people that I'm just a friggin' human like you, and we are trying to make magic happen, okay? And that's right. Sometimes we're going to hit it, and sometimes we're going to fall flat on my fucking face. We're going to curb stop ourselves by accident, okay? And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be friggin' awesome to witness, because that's the beauty of life, the redemption arc, okay? You with me? Who's with me, dog? Are you with me or not? Because if you're not with me, yeah, I'm sad if you're not with me. I would prefer that you be with me. Let's do it together. Okay, let's go. Oh, and let's hear that with the layers. You almost not even hear that part. And then on top of that. And then with that dry section. You hear how I learned this from Jason Joshua. If you want to bring something up, you got to bring a really dry, really stale-ass vocal or whatever it is that you want to come up to the front and give it more presence, more clarity, more punch. Bring it up to just hide it behind it, but have this dry version be right behind all the effects. Hear the transients out? You hear how it gets lost more? Yeah, little touches like this. Look at it. It's like pretty low. It's negative 11 dBs in this thing. And what do we have on this dry track? We just have some saturation, so it's not totally dry, and just rolling off of some harsh frequencies. It's all about subtractive EQ. You see a lot of people boosting like crazy. I guess it has its place, but be careful because you're going to introduce a lot of harshness by boosting certain things. Check out other aspects of your mix if you really want to boost a section. Most of the time, okay? All right, let's continue. Let's keep it going.
Lift me up before the dark, falling leaves among the clouds. Celebrate you out the shade. Time to get your ray.
The background effect that you're hearing with the spidery delayed vocals, they're gonna sound a lot better. I had to remove a lot of my routing. So one thing I did was, in case you don't know, within Ableton, this is the very CPU heavy move. Returns are basically the bus. So you could route any signal you want to it. It'll get processed in parallel with your original track. You want to process the bass and the drums and maybe, I don't know, some synth together and give them more glue. You can do that through a return track. So Ableton's return tracks, they're all down here. And as we're going to go through some of these songs, you're going to see a lot of return tracks that I've used, like way too many. I think I went ham. And then once I realized you can do parallel processing within each track yourself, that kind of saved me. So again, thank you, Langelo. But what I had was, if you open up this section further, you can actually send your return tracks to another return track, and that could be super cool and super creative. And I remember the first time I started doing it, Phil and I used to send sessions back and forth with each other. He was just so confused. He was like, "Oh, this fucking thing is like this, and I don't know where anything is that. You got return, you got your reverbs go to delays go to." And look, sometimes it's very easy to go overboard with this kind of stuff, but at the same time, you cannot fight the spirit of creativity, and you gotta explore. You feeling that vibe, son? You feeling that vibe? Like you gotta go and fucking see the world? You gotta go. You gotta go, Timmy. You gotta go. Jasmine and Divinity, all right? I love Divinity. That's not a person that I know, but I'm just saying, I love almost everybody who's named Divinity because that's an incredible name because you're all divine. Yes, you. Yes, you. That's right. Okay. Yeah, where were we at? So you can do some crazy shit. So, like, experiment, guys. But at the same time, I had to disable some of this stuff because my computer was already crawling. All right? Okay. You'll find a lot of cool things that you can do, unheard of things, by experimenting with something like that, in my opinion. Okay? So what do we have here? We have just some typical risers. Super quiet. Wow, super quiet in the mix. Let's hear if we have two of them. And one of them is like a freight train, of course. Cool. See, super bassy, got reverb on it. This is something I learned from Phil. Before this, I was just like, what? Risers, fallers? Like, what? Obviously, people have been doing it for a while, but now I understand how important they are. Without this, say you don't have this section, let's just mute this and let's play that song.
Time to get your raise.
It's just not even close to the same vibe. Need to have... Is this going to re-enable automation? It better. Okay, I just re-enabled it. Yeah, so imperative for song structure and progression. That little part right there. So yeah, you can hear one more additional little part brought in there. Another reverb reverse tail. There you go. A lot of auto panning on this guitar. See? We got delay. We got overdrive. We got a reverb. We got an auto pan. Auto pan's bringing it left and right, swimming along. See? That's without the auto pan. Auto pan is fantastic for bringing that. Right now, I'm hearing a lot of that like initial pick, like the guitar. You could hear every time I'm clicking it. It's a little too plucky for me right now. I would probably tame that a little bit, but in the context of a mix, again, you can't listen to anything in isolation and make decisions based on that. You have to listen to the entire thing. This is the bridge, I would say. And again, it feels familiar, but it also feels a little different because remember, the synth now has this vibe now as opposed to this. So, this dry vibe versus this sounds more ethereal. Sounds like we went to a different place a little bit, right? And then this is a pre-chorus, I would say. Slowly building it up. And this is obviously the second chorus. Going into the third chorus, this is where we gotta go balls out here. I just love this part right here. It's a little funky stuff bouncing out left and right channel. Love it. Oh. I fought for this so hard. Like I said, in the beginning of our partnership, I was really timid and self-conscious getting back into music and thinking like that again, like that Phil had every single answer in the world. And I didn't feel the confidence to even go and write a new synth part that I was like, something is missing because you got to introduce something exceptional and something new for the very final chorus, especially if you're doing it, verse, chorus, chorus. That's a very typical structure in pop music, and a lot of our songs are going to have that. So you need to bring something special in the very last chorus, right? Something new. So there's two things that are happening that are new in this final chorus. So first of all, there is a higher octave. See, but that wasn't enough. So if we just played all the guitars together, so we have that, we have the funky chord. Okay, my CPU, as you can tell, it's like literally, it's throttling at 90%. So I'm not going to address every single click and pop that you hear. Let's just assume that some of them are just created because of my CPU overload and as I'm going through these. In the future, if this is really bothering you, write it in the comments, let me know. But for now, I think we're gonna go through this as more of just like the broader strokes, right? Not like nitpicking pops, every single pop and click, because again, it could be my computer. Hopefully this channel is a success. Actually, this channel is going to be a success, and I'm going to be able to afford a Intel i9 12900K, baby, and I'm going to be rocking with it, and y'all are going to hear it crystal clear. But for now, them's the breaks, okay? But there's still something missing, in my opinion, right? We have the chords. Let's stack all these guitars, right? One thing that I was just feeling. I was like, you know what? There needs to be one additional part here. On this trusty sledge, I wrote this part here, and I think this is it. As you can see, there's a shitload of processing. This is what it sounds like by itself. Super unperfect played, but it was just in my heart of hearts. I just knew that that was the part, and it didn't have to be perfect. It had to be very human, actually. And this is the part with the effects again. So it has that gate again, so it's reminiscent of the previous synth. So it's all about thematical elements, right? We're telling a story, and I think if we bring back certain elements that we used in earlier parts of the songs on different sounds, it connects the entire piece together. So even though you might not even hear this part when you first listen to the song, it's in the background and it's definitely doing its work. So now let's hear that with all the guitar chords and everything together. It's a counter melody, and it's exactly what I think the song needed. So. You see what I mean? Like it added this ineffable kind of element to the song. It made it so much more psychedelic, and it just sounds lovely in my opinion. It's my favorite part of the song every single time, because it's just like during these elements when there's so much stuff going on, but it somehow still works. It frees the listener's mind, or at least my mind, to travel into unknown places, and it feels really good to do that. When music allows me to do that, especially music that I wrote, that's a rarity. Just bringing back, this feels like the end, right? The parts need to feel like whatever they're expressing. There's something about those chords, and I don't know what it is about the theory of that, or even that part. I think it's probably hitting the minor and the major. There's something that is both really happy about this, like we've arrived, but it's also the end, you know? And I think that juxtaposition is what I really truly love about music. Maybe the music is sad, but the lyrics are happy, or the opposite. These weird juxtapositions of emotions, I think, are where we can really explore new territory. And I think that's life, right? I don't know about y'all, but like life is bottled and smothered and swirled in by so many different emotions at once, and we don't really know which one's coming next and which one we're actually feeling unless we're super in tune with our mind-body-heart connection and we're practicing awareness and meditation and all these things. So I think that's the kind of music that I want to be making, that really challenge us in like, how are you feeling? Why are you feeling this way? And hopefully your brain is allowed to go and process that. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up for Mere Friend. I want to give a big thank you for everyone who stuck around, and truly appreciate you. If you want to support this channel, there's links for all the gear that I use that I will actually endorse. It's in the description. And there's a Patreon. You want to be a direct supporter, please visit. But really, I just want you to join the community. You know what I mean? Find me on socials. It's going to be for this account, this is going to be So Sound Studio. But if you want to follow me as an individual solo artist / whatever takes my fancy, I am at ed.enai. And let's connect on Discord. There's a Weverse that I've created. A Weverse, usverse. So yeah, I think I'm probably the only one in there right now, period, because nobody else has joined. But hey, that's just the beginning, right? And you got to be okay with being in solitude and alone. And I just want to thank you. I'm so grateful that I'm able to can share this gift of music with y'all. And I can't wait to see what y'all gonna create. And yeah, just hit a brother up. Let's do this. All right. Peace out. Much love from Ed to you. Let's do this. So Sound Studio out. Peace, baby. If you want to follow the studio, it's at So Sound Studio on all socials. And if you want to follow me, it's at ed.enai, right? Like you and me, baby. Me and you. Me and you. Me and you against the world. All right, I'll see you later.